AFROX is the Africa Oxford Cancer Consortium, and I set it up with my great friend and colleague Alan Milburn, our former Secretary of Health. He and I worked very closely together on the NHS plan. And it's just, as we're all increasingly aware, that there is a coming cancer pandemic that will sweep the developing world. And Africa is one of those continents which is least well prepared. And we felt we wanted to do something about it. The most important initial step for us was a meeting we held, interestingly, in the Reform Club in London, which we had 23 African health ministers, and we posed two simple questions. Do you know there's a cancer problem coming, and do you want to do something about it? A resounding yes to both. And that was important because it allowed us to go back to the British Prime Minister, the AIDS sector, and say, you know, cancer is not an orphan disease. It's huge, it's important, it's problematic. And the Africans want us to collaborate to do something about it. So that was our first step. Since then, we've been working very closely in Ghana to help write a national cancer plan. We've working to see what we can do to roll out an HPV vaccine program. We have an interesting cancer awareness program going on, some early detection stuff. So a big focus in Ghana, because we feel that if we can get the model in Ghana right, we can export that to other countries. Our friends in Rwanda, in Nigeria, Uganda, Sierra Leone, the Gambia, all other nations with whom we have strong contacts and with whom we wish to work. I guess the stark thing is just the incredible lack of infrastructure. Ghana is great. We've got some fantastic colleagues in the capital, Accra, and the major town in the north, Kumasi. There are some great cancer doctors, nurses, surgeons there, so we have something to build on. But if, for example, we go somewhat further west to Sierra Leone, then there isn't a single pathologist, there are no cancer doctors at all, there is just no infrastructure of any sort whatsoever. And therefore it's very difficult to build on absolutely nothing. But in Ghana, there's a very strong platform, and if we can get it right there, perhaps we can build a hub and spoke model from Ghana out in some way. So it's not about the people, because we know that the individuals, the health ministries, the docs and nurses want to get involved. They're indefatigable, they're tireless, they're energetic, they're bright, committed people. But there's just so little infrastructure and resource, it's often very hard to make a start. I was very anxious that I would end up being a cancer lobbyist and that I would be, in a way, forcing cancer down the throats of the African health ministers. And therefore, that's why we posed those important questions. Is cancer important, and would you like to work with us to do something about it? And there has been a definite and resounding yes in every African nation state that we've worked with, that we've been in contact with. But you're right. Cancer is a tricky, expensive illness. We know that if you're the health minister of some African states, you have $10 per year to spend per head of the population. And that puts most conventional modern cancer treatments way out there. That means that we must be more lateral in our thinking. Can we awareness raise? What about prevention? What about earlier detection? These are important, perhaps more important, components of the cancer plan. Of course, we must offer treatment when we detect patients with cancer, but we need to find a way to treat cancer in $1 a day. So if there were a battle cry, I think we need to work with our colleagues in Africa and the developing nations to see if we can come up with cancer treatments that are effective, but cost-effective too. So the very expensive modern cancer treatments, I mean, I don't have access to them in Oxford, let alone in Accra. And I think there's an interesting and important piece of work that we can do defining optimally effective cancer treatments, but being very aware of the cost of them as well. I mean, coming here to Tanzania is fantastic. Twalib Ngoma, who's the president of Aortic, is a great friend of mine. We were boys together in Glasgow, so we trained as youngsters many moons ago, and we've stayed friends all of this time. I hope as president-elect of ESMO to be able to bring strong bridges between ESMO and Aortic. But just the size of the gathering. Ralph Waldo Emerson said convention is that love of wisdom and of coming together and sharing it, and it's great. I mean, I come here to learn, to share in partnership, not to foist the best of Western medicine, but actually to listen to our African colleagues, to see how they're dealing with the problems. I just learn such an awful lot. So we see friends, and of course there's a social aspect, and we are that sort of band of brothers and sisters. But there are good ideas here, ideas that I can take home and apply. Interesting hypotheses, which if we can get a research act together, we might be able to help with here and so on too. So I always come away from these meetings uplifted. I'll be president of ESMO next year, taking over from another great friend of mine, Jose Baselga. I mean, Jose's done a great job knocking ESMO into shape. But where I'd like to take ESMO, of course, is to build on the work that Jose's done, but to use my 2-year term as president to build stronger links to the developing world. I mean, Europe has a strong imperial past in terms of links with the developing world, and I think that I should use my presidency and the incredible brain power, the wealth of talent, the wealth of, I guess, access and power that ESMO has to see what we can do to collaborate more fully with our brothers and sisters in the developing world. So that's going to be a big thing for me. Exactly. So it's not for me to say that Europe has just taken. But, I mean, there are probably more Ghanaian nurses in London than there are in Accra, which is interesting. And that could be true of many of the other major European capitals. And I think that we should give something back. But I mean that in the sense of intellectually and in partnership, not in any sort of pejorative handout type way, but truly in partnership to make a difference.